and the truth to the people of New Zealand.
Honourable Chester Borrows.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's my pleasure to rise and speak in support of the motion, confidence in the government as it stands at the moment and led by the Right Honourable John Key. I'd also like to add with others my best wishes to the departing Speaker as he leaves to seek his fortune in other places, and to the incoming Speaker. I'd like to note whoever that person may be. I'd like to note, in respect of the departing Speaker, my gratitude for the help that he's been to me at times as a young and inexperienced Member of Parliament, and previous to that on a number of occasions as a young and inexperienced candidate. I always appreciated his wisdom and advice and the opportunities that he gave to be part of his program within his own electorate. But it's the primary cause for standing and speaking, of course, is to speak in respect of confidence in this government, a government that is marked with aspiration and optimism. Aspiration for people right across our society, whether they be young people who want to own homes, young parents who want their children educated, young people wanting to start out in business, people who have been in business for some time, want to employ more staff, want to attract the attention of other people in other markets to the products that they are wanting to sell over there. A government that has an aspiration for everybody to get up and to get on, rather than the hallmark of an opposition that is about doom and gloom and despair and hatred. Hatred for anybody who aspires to do well in this country. Hatred for anybody who has done well in this country, whether they're employing hundreds, whether they're employing thousands, or whether they're employing 5 or they're employing 6. The Labor Party doesn't want it, they don't like it, and they hate it because they know that as soon as somebody gathers assets around them and gets the aspiration of someone in business for themselves or in business for other people and prepared to work hard, they look at where they're going to spend their voting power and they tend to vote conservatively. And the Labor Party also hates farmers, and we've seen that because they counter every possible initiative that this government might have with respect to progressing farmers, whether it be by PGP subsidies or whether it be by working with other markets to attract our produce overseas, whether it be by encouraging people to be more productive on their land, or, for instance, storing water so that that productivity can be seen right across our sector. They hate the farming industry. Without it, we wouldn't have an economy. We wouldn't have a free education system like we have now. We wouldn't have a free healthcare system like we have now. We wouldn't be able to live and enjoy the life that we have in this country without that farming sector, and Labor hates them. Labor hates people within the energy sector, without who we wouldn't have our 4th biggest contributor to our economy, and Taranaki would be in a situation where many other provincial areas have been under the leadership or lack of it from that previous government. Taranaki at the moment, and South Taranaki, my part of Taranaki within the Wanganui electorate, experiences high employment at the moment. It experiences comparatively high wages compared to other areas, and a lot of that on the back of 2 industries, the dairy industry and the energy sector, and Labor hate it. Hatred for anybody who has a different idea than Labor. So if you want to start talking about a different idea for education, they will hate you for that. If they want to talk about a different idea with respect of farming, they'll hate you for that. If you want to have different ideas about youth justice, they'll hate you for that. If they want to have different ideas about anything that Labor has got a stated policy on, they will hate you for that. They will hate you for your ideas about kick-starting the economy, about recognising growth, about recognising opportunities and seizing them. They will hate you for that. Labor is built, unfortunately, on hatred. Labor and the Greens despair at anyone who would like to support a national government, and they hate them as well. And invariably, they hate them as well. For time and time again over the last 6 years, we have seen people talk personal attacks on our leaders, personal attacks on members of Parliament from this side of the House, and yet what we know is they talk about smile and wave, they talk about all those sorts of things, but the rest of the public, unfortunately for us, fortunately for us and unfortunately for Labor, don't hate like Labor has learned to hate. Because what we see is that the support for this national government 6 years into its term, 5 years into its term, they'll never put me in charge of the money. In any event, we are seeing those polls staying exactly where they have been on election nights, and good on them. And all that really shows is that the Labor government is out of step, the Labor opposition is out of step, I'm cocking this up, out of step with where the rest of New Zealand was. And I just want to talk about the sector that I have some responsibility for, and that my numbers are worse than David Parker's, I don't know if you noticed. Better head count than David Cunliffe. In any event, if we look at those areas around youth justice and law and order, there are a number of really good initiatives that came in when we came in 2008. They were fresh start initiatives. They ran through the Social Services Select Committee that a number of us sat on, and they were hated by Labor as well. They were opposed by Labor and the Greens, and they voted against it on every move. But what we have seen is the result of those fresh start initiatives starting to pay off. We're seeing a drop in youth justice family group conferences by 1,000 in the last 12 months. That's 1,000 young kids not being dragged before a family group conference because there isn't the need for that to happen. Court-ordered family group conferences are down 500. That's an enormous impact on young people's lives that doesn't set them down a course where they could be sucked into the justice system and eventually the prison system. Fresh Start has dramatically dropped the number of young people transferred into the district court. There is only a third of young people who used to go to the district court for sentencing now going there. A huge impact, not putting young offenders into an adult environment for sentencing. We're noticing that crime has come down and youth crime has come down significantly, and that is as a result of the Fresh Start changes taking people out of the churn. I remember going as a member of the opposition to the Rolleston Youth Justice Facility there, into the residence there. And of the 32 young people who were in that residence, about 30 of them were back in that residence for their 4th or 5th stint of 3 months at a time. Absolutely ridiculous, and no plan to get out of that. And so by creating legislation which enable people to bolt onto the back of those short terms of supervision with residents, with counselling, with drug and alcohol treatment and therapy and those sorts of things, we have stopped that churn of young people coming through those residences, stopped sending them off to a criminal university and giving them a gang affiliation. But Labor voted against all those things. Another initiative that we've had huge success in is drug and alcohol placements. We are delivering double those numbers for drug and alcohol therapy. We're delivering double the numbers for youth mentoring. The MAC camps that Labor labelled the boot camps and talked about incessantly, that conversation has dropped right off now. What we've taken over the last little while is 40 of the worst young offenders in this country, and having intervened in their lives, we are seeing 13% less recidivism than if they'd just gone to the supervision with activity course that they were destined to attend under Labor. Crime is down, court appearances are down, the court system is being streamlined and is working far more efficiently than it has in a long time, and they're destined to see more changes coming that way as well. I'm proud to be part of this government that has aspiration and optimism for the future of this country. I look forward to exposing time and again over the next 12 months the hatred, the doom and the gloom and despair of the opposition.
Andrew Williams.